This next song that I'm going to play is dedicated to my mom. I remember her playing this on the accordion. And so I'm going to try and play it for you on the guitar. It's called the Muskrat Ramble. And it goes something like this.
So talk about the styles. Did you do waltzes or polkas or shawty?
Well, all of the above. He, when he was a young guy, I don't know how old he was when he first started playing the violin, but he was very young age, 11, 12 years old. And he would tell stories of getting the horse and the sleigh out and traveling, like 20 miles, 30 miles
In the winter?
to play for a dance in the wintertime.
With all that gear.
And
Did they originally play like acoustic? Like, was there power?
everything was acoustic. There was-
everything in that time?
there's no power, all
So
acoustic.
you had to show up with your acoustic and a fiddle
Yep.
and hope there was a piano there, like to play bass.
Sometimes
originally?
some of the halls, depending on the size of the community and what they had as far as money goes for the
Amenities.
community, some might have a
dictate
piano,
what they had.
Yeah. but that was about it.
Yeah.
So in those days, you brought your own. You had an acoustic guitar, you had an accordion, you had a violin.
That was all
Well,
your.
you know,
Yeah.
and even from the mandolin, right? It was all, there's no power.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Some of these halls, well, they wouldn't have power. They'd have those pump up oil lanterns,
Right?
right? For
And that's
lighting
originally
and
how
that.
they lit it, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, isn't that something?
Anyways, you tell me stories of getting home at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning.
All the struggles, not just.
Yeah.
Most people think playing music's just for the stage time. They
Yeah,
don't know
no,
the struggles and the upkeep and the sacrifice it takes
Exactly. It was
to make
getting
these
to
things
and
happen.
from. Yeah.
No, and
Just getting to and from the venue.
it's hard enough. Yeah, team up the horses.
Team
and
up the
everything.
horses. Thing was is that Dad would always, he was great at judging the crowd and the kind of music
People want
that
to
they
hear.
wanted to play.
Right.
There'd be times when he would just put the violin and the accordion away, and he'd pull out the guitar, and he'd just say to Daryl, "All right, you know, you guys take this."
And you mentioned that one yesterday, how you showed me a style on what, Yellowbird?
Yellowbird, yeah.
And was that a tune you played on the accordion or on the fiddle?
No, that was
or?
a violin.
That was a
Yeah,
violin,
played that.
please. Okay.
And then you do Yellowbird. That and he'd work his way. So
Handyside's got the same fiddles, identical fiddles,
Somebody bought.
from Jim McConaughey. He was I think his name was Jim McConaughey, and he farmed north of Tisdale because Dad grew up in the forestry area.
Somewhere, and Daryl has it, in the bottom of Dad's violin case is a list of all the songs that we used to do, wasn't there?
Like a set list or.
Yes, that list, yeah.
Play for dances.
Yeah.
Well, little family history. Back when I was about 17 years old, I always loved listening to music, and back in those days we listened a lot to the Eagles, and Hotel California was a big one, a newer one to come along at that time, but lots of Fleetwood Mac and Boston and things. So I went into Tisdale and bought a stereo from Martin's for $1,750. It was a turntable, an amplifier, and 4 massive speakers. And brought it home and hooked it up in the old trailer and had some tunes playing. And my dad came in from the field and he said, "What the hell's that?" And I said, "It's a home stereo." And he said, "What do you need that for? You're never at home." So brother and Daryl and I got home late one night around midnight and got out of the car and I said to him, "Did you leave the stereo on?" And he goes, "No, no, he said, I shut it off. And so we walked into the house, and Dad was sitting there with his guitar, and he had a Don Messer album on my new stereo, and he had it cranked to about 7 on a scale of 10, and the windows were shaking in the old trailer. He had a big smile on his face, and he says, sounds pretty good now. And then he said, how much did you pay for that? And I said, $1,750. And he says, geez, I could have bought a new cultivator with that money. But it turned out that he liked my stereo in the end. So it was a good purchase.
Yeah, you played. If somebody sent you a request and you knew it, you played it. And yeah, like a shotty's a 7-step. What was the other one? A French minuet. Like a heel toe polka.
A
all
jig,
in
a
circles.
waltz, you know.
Oh, waltzes, foxtrots,
Copycat.
polkas, 2-steps. Anything they requested that you could play. That was, like I said, back then, that's what people used to, that was a gathering for the community. So it was a time for them to intervene with each other and socialize with each other.
What was Grandpa like as a teacher? What was his? Was he hard or was he easy or was he? You know,
Very easy.
Very easy going?
Yeah. And Grandpa was one that always wanted to get all of the chords in.
Like if there was a 7th or
He was more. Dad was more of a major chords guy.
sticking to the major keys.
He'd
His
stick to
G's.
the major
and his-
keys. There wasn't too many songs that he played that were in minors.
Right.
He played a lot of flats.
Right.
E flat, A flat.
Oh, really?
A flat.
always said that you can please some of the people some of the time, but you can't please all of the people all of the time.
Okay, now, Mom, this is one that we're gonna do just for you. It kind of employs everything that we think about and how much we love you. And you are everything in this song is you.
And sure we're glad to know what offered. And we went to sleep and put our fears to rest. It didn't seem to matter what we needed. We could always count on Mama to supply. And regardless of the sleep we might be losing, we always found a twinkle in her eye. Gladly all faithful creation's most unique and precious pearl. Heaven help us always to remember that the hand that draws the cradle rules the world.
I was born in Tyven in 1924. My dad played the violin a little bit, but not that much. But he had a violin, and Fred played.
Did Fred play at a young age in the house when you guys were little
Well,
together, or was that something
yeah.
that he developed
Well,
after?
he's 5 years older than me, but when it seemed to me there was a relative of Dad's gave him a violin, and I can't think of his name now. My mom was born in England, so they belonged, and but Dad was Catholic, but there was something happened, and so he stayed with the Anglican Church.
And did you take some piano lessons when you were young?
Yeah, I took a few, but the teacher moved. She was from Fillmore, but she moved, so I didn't take very many lessons like that to read music. Was it Grandpa Bixman's anniversary, or birthday, or yeah, I think it was his birthday, and some of my uncles were there. Well, there was Uncle Albert. He played the violin, and I can't remember whether Uncle Henry played a bit. I think he did.
He did, hey? Nice. What was it like to share the music with the kids on the farm, with your kids, when they were growing up, and playing for some of the dances around this area?
Yeah, well, Jack and I played for a lot of the dances, and then Gord played with us. He played guitar.
And he started with you guys?
Jack played the violin. And so, yeah, we did. We got $7 a piece, usually for playing. And then on our way home, we'd stop at Crowley's and the store in town and get our groceries for the week.
Okay, Amanda, remember how you don't like getting the house family together? It's just like trying to herd cats.
Yes.
Oh, this is good. Arlene, I'd hold your hand, but you'd have to hold mine. All right, there I am. Perfect. It's great to have the whole family here. It's just
You need me to get them.
is Barry. I'm the oldest of Mom and Dad's family. Some of the things I remember about the farm and the music, always lots of work to do. Mom and Dad always took time out for friends and music. That came first before anything else. We did a lot of work on the farm as kids. Remember, we started out with pigs and then got into the cow business. Some of the old cows were Bunny and Molly and Hammerhead, and there was many others. I remember one year I was probably 13, 14 years old. We were milking 12 cows morning and night, and we had to get up pretty early. If Dad didn't get us out of bed in time to go, or Mom, I guess, didn't get us out of bed, Mom and Dad had to milk all the cows themselves. So it happened only one winter, and then we were back to just 3 or 4 again, enough to feed the pigs. Did a lot of work in the fields. I can remember when I was middle-aged, probably before I was 10, Mom used to spend a lot of time out on the tractor, the old E3 co-op, and Dad would come up with the other one when everything else was looked after. It was interesting to find out that all the years on the farm, we kids went through, did all our work, and when Dave left the farm, when he graduated out of high school, about 2 weeks later, all the cows followed him. And I often wondered how he managed to do that, because they stuck around long after I was gone. That's my little bit of the story. Thank you.
Dad probably taught Barry. Barry played rhythm guitar and bass.
Ron, you're in the way.
I'm thinking that Barry bought the harmony because Barry had and still has the harmony bass, the one that he had just the other last week at out there. That's the bass that I learned to play.
When you talk about the musical career of Gord Howes, it all began with a guitar that we used to have in the outhouse.
Oh, that's right.
And that guitar had one string on it, and it was the high E string. And the popular song of that day was Alley Cat. And it would go do 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 da 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 da.
At the same time, he taught Gord, and we used to have a old guitar hanging in the outhouse.
Yeah, it had one string.
It had one string on it, and Dad went out one day, and he could hear Gord playing Alley Cat. That song, da 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 da. That one.
That was the song that I started with. And I heard this fellow by the name of Chet Atkins play that. And I thought, he had so many more notes in that. And he played it with a fingers. Like I could, back in that day, we didn't have any video. So there was no way of really knowing how he played it. I just had to listen to it by ear and figure it out. So I did.
Oh,
So as we were doing that, then I learned how to kind of get the I call it the cadence, the right cadence of a song. But anyway, that was the very first song. One string guitar, pick one note at a time,
Yeah.
and that's where my musical career began.
Oh,
Was
yeah, that's.
in the outhouse.
Yeah.
And how old were you?
I was probably about 4, maybe 5,
Wow.
because this guitar, it had a binder twine that went around the neck up by the nut, and had it over your neck, and then you tied it around on the back just to hold the guitars.
They hold it in place.
So here now, envision this. In the wintertime, you go out and you take your mitts and you brush the frost away from the
Toilet seat.
the toilet seat. You put one mitt there, and you put the other mitt there, and then you sat there. Right? Now, usually around Christmas time was a great time. We used to get all these oranges. You know, the mandarin oranges, and they were always wrapped in
Christmas. That green
the
wrap.
green wrapper. So you'd sit there and you'd crumple that all up, get it to just the right texture. Finish your business, and then that was it. The guitar would go back up on the wall for the next time. Some of the old Chet Atkins songs, and they're the ones that I learned how to pick. The first one was this one that went, it was called Mr. Sandman, and it goes like.
Music
A
and
big time, yeah. When you can see your idol up there playing, and it was at the Jubilee Auditorium in Calgary. Just wonderful show, and I came out of there inspired, and I was going to learn how to play this Chet Atkins style, regardless. So, okay, so here's how I taught myself how to play all these different tunes. First of all, with my thumb and on the bass strings here, I get playing the bass lines. So, Lady Madonna as an example. Here's the bass line. So there's the bass line. The melody line, I play with my fingers on the bottom 3 strings here, and it goes like that. So what you do is you put the two together when you're playing the bass and the melody line, and it goes like this.
lonesome hobo's call, traveling through the jungle on the Wabash Cannonball. We had many musical jam sessions at our little house on the farm. They were with neighbors, friends, some relatives. I remember quite often it would be on a Sunday or a Sunday evening, and the music would continue into the early hours of the morning, and I would be upstairs trying to go to sleep because I had school the next day. Daryl and I sang at a talent show in Sylvania when we were quite young. We sang the Blue Skirt Waltz, and Daryl played the ukulele, and there's a picture of Daryl and I sitting on the table at the farm in our pajamas, and he was playing the ukulele. We had a real assortment of musical instruments at the farm. We had an old pump organ, we had piano, we did have an electric organ for a while, electric guitars, acoustic guitars, bass, ukulele, accordion, saxophone. We had mouth recorders, fiddle, violin.
Oh, yeah, there.
No drums though. We did try drums for a couple weeks. I believe it was Brian Peterson that had left them at our house, but Dad did not care
they were
for
so loud.
the noise and the loudness of them.
Okay. There goes my baby with someone new. She sure is happy, I sure am blue. She was my baby till then. Goodbye to romance, that might have been. Bye-bye love, bye-bye happiness, hello loneliness, I think I'm gonna die. Bye-bye my love, bye-bye.
When I played the bass guitar, I used to like Dad to play the rhythm because I usually knew when to change, but I didn't know always where to change to, and Dad used a simple chord method that I had no problem following him or watching him.
G starts off real good. Don't worry about the left button. Play the right button. Oh, that's nice.
You guys are using up all the bandwidth here. So you just have to have retake the
Ah, very nice. That was very nice. That's what we want.
Play together, it was easy. We were in the same house, same yard. Daryl and I probably sang more together. We were only a year and a half apart in age, and yeah, it was always good. Always enjoyed it. Enjoyed the dancing, the music. I still do, and always will.
When I was old enough, I like Barry and Gord. Gord was already playing, so was Barry. And you know, I used to play Barry's old bass, I guess it was, and that's how I actually first started into music. Played the bass guitar and learned the basic chords of the songs on them. And I played for my first dance when I was 9 years old in Elderslie.
Yeah,
For New Year's. Yeah. There was Gordon, Dad, and Mom, and I. And Barry was there. I believe, if I remember right, Barry was there because I was 9 years old and Dad didn't figure I could play all night.
Wow.
You guys got to get closer together for me to get a picture of you.
Yeah, and back then the dances you maybe had a break. You maybe had a break if you started at 9. Maybe about 10:30 you might have, and that was only for about 5 or 10 minutes. You went down and had well, for me it was a drink of water or a glass of pop or something, and then you'd be right back up playing, and you played till supper time, which was either 12, somewhere between 12 and 1 o'clock. And then after supper, you played for another hour or two.
Wow, again, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because it'd be about.
Sounds good.
1 or 2 o'clock
It
before.
was usually lots of times it was 2 o'clock before you'd.
Yeah, got home.
The only ones you could pretty much set your watch by was the Elks Club in Star City, and we used to go there.
Mm-hmm.
We used to go there probably every second weekend there for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd play all night, and all we had back then was the half ton to haul the equipment around, and in the wintertime, like, we used that half ton for for hauling straw and hay bales out to the cows, and then you would come Saturday night, you would get washed up and cleaned up, and headed off to a dance. And we never used to even tarp it, but there used to be straw and stuff inside the hole in the speaker, or not the speakers, but in the cabinet of the amp. There used to be a few bit of straw floating around in there, but everything seemed to work. And then you'd take it out just ice cold and bring it in the hall. And you try to get there a bit early, but then you were busy tuning all the time because being that cold,
Yeah.
you would bring it up and warm it up. As the temperature warmed up, the strings would expand in the heat, and then you had to tune it up. And of course, back then there was no tuners, so you tuned all by ear. So that's kind of the way that music, I guess, has changed. It used to be more of a social gathering. Rather than to perform to anything, it was a time to dance, time to sit across from your neighbor and visit, because it was the whole community's interaction.
Totally.
So you always wanted to make sure that you didn't play music too loud when we had amplifiers or anything like that. And Dad always used to say, if I can't see two people talking and I got to shout across the table, he said, we are too loud and we're going to turn it down. And you won't see that any time that they're there to play that music. You know, any band nowadays, you're here to hear my music, and I'm going to play it as loud as I want.
You say, honey, I don't worry. Honey, I love you too. That's the way love goes.
I don't know whether I don't think Gord ever took any lessons. He learned the music that he played that we originally played back then from Dad. So it was as Barry grew up and moved on, and Gord grew up and moved on, then somebody had to fill that lead position, be it a fiddle or guitar or saxophone or whatever. So I guess from the bass I went to rhythm guitar, and I used to sing lots. And we had a band at that time called the Night Winds with Brian Peterson and Larry Jensen and Dad and I. And then during the busy seasons, we couldn't, harvest time, for instance, and seeding time. It got harder for Dad to be taking the spring and fall dances. So he would stay home and do the harvest, and we would go out and play with Larry and Brian and I as the Night Winds. At the farm, you kind of had a choice, and you didn't have a choice. You had Saturday night hockey game. We always watched Hockey Night in Canada. So either you got the chores done before or after the hockey game.
But you're getting the chores done.
But the chores had to come first. And then we would, after supper, like I said, it was a form of entertainment. It would be similar to what the kids have now for iPads and the time they spend on games. The family worked together as a family, including haying and looking after cattle and all the things that involved mixed farming at that time. So Saturday night was if you weren't playing, or every night usually after we were done the chores, we'd sit down and play music as a pastime. And we only had 2 channels on the TV back then, so if what you were watching didn't appeal to you, it got turned off and you started playing music. So yeah, a lot of hockey when we all got older.
Yeah, all the boys played hockey.
We all played hockey, and Arlene figure skate. She was a figure skater, but I remember having to go into town to do them sort of things too. But the boys all played music, but Greg and Dave especially played hockey. If somebody wants to come up on stage and do a song, all they got to do is sing. You've got to fill in. The drummer's got to know his part. The bass player's got to know his part. The rhythm guitar player's got to know his part. So does the lead player. And yeah, so it just kind of all evolved from there. I learned to be a lead lead player out of necessity more than anything else, because if there's a void there, somebody's got to fill that void, and if you can't hire nobody, well, then you got to do your best to fill that. And that.
Well, good morning, Captain. I need help with the highway. Good morning to you. Hot, hot. It is hot, hot. I know you think it is hot.
And I guess as we grew up, you always had to help the younger ones learn how to play. So I remember with Arlene, Dad says, you can teach her how to play bass. So I said, well, I can do that, but she said, well, how will I learn? Well, I said, you got to know when to change. Well, how do you know that? How do you know when to do that? So I said, well, you see this chord here? When I change from this chord to this position, that means you got to change. Well, how do you know where to change to? Well, I said, well, that's the other thing. So, being that I'd never had any musical lessons or whatever, but you pick that up by ear and you learn to play.
So music was always a big part of our life, and singings. And I remember Dad bought a brand new Fargo half-ton, and I think it was 1971, and it didn't have a radio in it. So we were kind of disappointed that there was no radio to listen to. But the benefit was when we were on our way into town to a hockey game or to take Arlene figure skating or something, we'd always be singing along in the truck on the way into town and on the way back. So it was good quality family time together. and way more valuable than the radio, because you can listen to a radio anywhere at any time now. So. Lean on me. That's kind of how she went, eh? When you're not strong, and I'll be your friend, and I'll help you carry on. It won't be long till you're gonna need somebody to when I was about 16 years old, I played bass guitar with Gordon Davidson and the Midnight Ramblers, and we traveled around locally, played a lot of the small places. We went to Saskatoon one time to play for a wedding dance for a guy that Gordon knew, that from home but got married in the city, and we went up to Creighton one night to play for a retirement dance. And I remember on the way back from Creighton, everybody was tired, so we pulled over to have a sleep, and when we woke up in the morning, we fired up the old Dodge truck and kept going down the road we were on, but apparently Gordon turned off on a side road, so we spent most of the day trying to figure out where we were and trying to get back home again. So one of the casualties of playing late at night. But yeah, one of the songs I remember Gordon Davidson always playing was "The Race Is On," and a few years later, when I heard it done by Sawyer Brown, it sounded different, but still had the same ring to it anyway. But it was good times. I could tell you once we're lovers, but you ain't hiding nothing that I don't know. 'Cause there's an old flame burning in your eyes. The tears can't drown and makeup can't disguise. Well, that old flame might not be stronger, but it's been burning longer than any spark I might have started in your eyes. It ended when he left you. You said your love from me is strong, but those old memories still upset you. Well, I might be a memory before too long, 'cause there's an old flame burning in your eyes. The tears can't drown and makeup can't disguise. That old flame might not be stronger, but it's been burning longer than any spark I might have started in your eyes. being at Auntie Vi's house across the road, and she always listened to country ballads. She had lots of records and would often listen to Tex Ritter and that type of music as well. So some of those old country ballads, you know, kind of resonate with you as you move along in life, and then even some of the newer country songs a few years back, some of the guys got into doing the odd ballad once in a while, which was kind of nice. So yeah, it was just really fond memories of that as well. Especially Auntie Vi also had Grandma House's old phonograph player with the round circular discs that went on, and the needle went back and forth, and they had the big horn coming off of it for the sound. It was quite a piece of engineering to look at that thing spin around and play music.
Hi there, I'm Dave Howes, the youngest of the family, the baby. This is August 19th, 2017, and Jared has asked to do a little video talking about the family and the history and our childhood and whatnot. So I would like to start by saying I'm probably the luckiest guy in the world. I had the best childhood ever, thanks to Mom and Dad and the family. I know I was probably spoiled a lot more than the rest. I always had bikes, and I always had hockey equipment, and I always had nice clothes, and there was always a car to drive when I needed, and I know Mom and Dad put lots of miles on for me with all my sports. From the time I was about 9 years old up to about 15 or 16, I would play with not only one but two hockey teams. I would play with my age group and the one above all the time, and that carried on right into high school, and I got to play with the Tisdale Midget A's, and then a little bit of senior hockey, and actually a year with the NSJHL Canistino Tiger Bruins. I remember Dad would come to all the home games for sure, and I'd often hear him hollering in the fans. Most of the time it was encouragement I could hear. The other few times it was more orders and how to play. it was always great to hear him. He loved sports. He liked coming to the football games. 1981 Tisdale Unit Composite High School football 9-man provincial champions, and I remember him being at that game with me. So, talking about musical influences, well, there's been music in the family ever since I can remember, of course. Some people have said, why do I play bass guitar? The story I use is that it was the only instrument left, pretty much, because when everybody grabbed the violins and accordions and guitars, Barry's old bass was kicking around, and that's how I learned. It was an easy one to learn on. In school I did play a little bit of saxophone, but never really carried on with it. But I remember spending hours and hours with Dad. He would just chord and whistle or sing songs and teach me all the chords. I remember when Gord would come home or Barry would come home, I always knew that there was going to be music played, and I'd get so excited as a kid to see everybody. They would play for hours and hours on end, and you know, learning all the old songs. Daryl and I have spent hours, I remember, playing with him, and he would teach me all the chords. And Gord, when he would come home, he would bring in some new music or you know, different styles of music other than country and whatnot. You know, Doobie Brothers, and I remember he taught me, I believe it was Roberta Flack. It was kind of an open string deal that he would do, and he'd get me to Your Love Is Lifting Me Higher. It would start. Anyway, he'd kick in the rhythm, and away we go, and of course we never knew the words, but we tried to sing along as much as we could. When Brian Peterson would come by, boy, that guy, he seemed to have that talent, that great vocals, and play lots of different instruments, and he was certainly an influence. I do remember probably one of the biggest influences, I don't know about so much an influence, but a story, is playing with Gordon Davidson, and I think everybody in the family had an opportunity to play with Gordon. And I must have been 16, I must have had my license, because I remember we got a phone call at the house that somebody had to go play with Gordon. They didn't have a bass player, and I guess I was the only one around at the time. So Dad filled up the Fargo with gas for me, and I took off all the way down to Lintlaw, Saskatchewan, which is quite a ways from Sylvania. And I'd seen Gordon before, but never had played with him. So it was a large wedding dance. There was a lot of people there, and I was very nervous to get up on stage, and never played in front of that many people before. And of course, we all know him as Three-Chord Gord, and he had a different rhythm and a different way of playing the songs. Growing up with the House family, you had to play every chord, and we would play songs with 4, 5, 6, 7 chords, and if we didn't know them, we'd stop everything until they figured them out. And going from there to play with Gordon with 3 chords was a big different way of doing things. And I remember after the first set, I could just not catch on to his beat, and I was trying to put all the chords in, and he was skipping quite a few of them. And after the first break, he kind of says, "You're having a hard time keeping up there, young guy." He says, "You know, don't worry, we'll get it." Well, I remember by the end of that evening, everybody was on the floor dancing. I had figured out his rhythm and the way he chorded, and I've never seen anybody get everybody up and dancing so much. So it was a great learning experience for sure. Love the Eagles. Lynn and I were fortunate enough to see them in Saskatoon. We went to 2 of their concerts, and this is one of their newer songs. Just play along a little bit with you to give you an idea, but this is what I should do more of and practice more and learn a lot of the songs. So.
He got this
So this is a bass run that I learned. I remember it was one of the first complicated bass runs I'd ever kind of learned. The bass, of course, is an accompaniment instrument, and this, it almost plays a bit kind of like the lead in the song. So I have fun with it, and it's King of the Road.
The very first high-end guitar that I ever had, I guess, was a Gretsch. It was a big orange Gretsch guitar, and it was the Rancher series. And every time I'd go into the music store, it was at Along and McQuaid, and I would see this thing up there hanging on the wall, and it's just beckoning me.
It was calling you, Gord.
Yeah, that's the one that had the big G and the K in it. So. Okay, here we are with some practice time. Of course, practice time always goes with practice loop, right? So today I'm playing my my Gretsch. This is a Rancher series. It's a big bout guitar. It's 17 inches, 17 and a half inches across here. But it's the Chet Atkins orange. And you see the big G in here and the K, if you can see that. I just call it Gord's guitar. So I'm going to play a song on it. It's called After You've Gone. And it starts out like this. Okay. licking it this time. Here it is. First time I'd gone into the recording studio, like the only guy that I knew there was Wayne and brother Daryl, and it was Daryl that said to me, he says, "Well, bring your guitar along, bring your little Fishman amplifier along." He says, "We're doing some work in the studio tonight." So I said, "Oh, what the heck, sure."
Just kind of come in as a guest, and
I just went in as a guest, and we sat out in the control room, and one of the sound engineers, Mike Baxter, he says, "Well, Gord, what kind of music do you play? Just give us a sample." So I sat down and I played, I think the very first one I played was Windy and Warm. And it Mike just kind of sat there and looked. And so I finished that song, and he says, "Hold on." Wayne had heard this as well. He says, "We're going to set up Studio One right now." Wayne went in and I went in the studio when he said, just leave your, take your guitar. He says, but just leave the Fishman here. We're going to try recording just with microphones alone. So we did. Went into Studio One, got that all set up, and I just started playing. I think I put down about 4 songs that night. And,
one after the other.
I just started playing one song right after another, unedited, no fixes,
no recording,
no re-recordings, and just the whole album
is
turned
real.
out to be like that.
Real.
The guitar was sitting around the campfire, and there was at one point in time when there was about 22 and a half years went by where I never really played my guitar at all.
No kidding.
Oh my
I put the guitar down and,
Would you still
tried to climb the corporate ladder. I can't say as I would suggest you do what you want to do. You do what you like. If you like a particular artist and you like the way that they play, then try to emulate them. For me, my biggest influence was Chet Atkins. I just could not figure out how a man could make one guitar sound like he could.
Like two.
Well, a lot of the upcoming ones do have the musical talent. You can tell that they've got the rhythm and that, and I don't know, music is a great thing to have. It's it helps relieve stress. It's wonderful.
it's what you like and it's who you are, so play it the way you want and what gives you enjoyment. Because I think music and musicians as a whole are at this point in time a dying breed.
Absolutely.
Because it's easier to go and buy a tape of somebody than it is to sit down and actually learn how to play,
Old time song.
well, any type of instrument well.
Well, it's absolutely true. Either it seems
Strangers ain't come down from Rocky Top, reckon they're living there still. Corn don't grow on Rocky Top. That's why all the folks on Rocky Top get all the corn and the job. Rocky Top, you'll always be home sweet home. Rocky Top, Tennessee. Woo! Rocky Top, Tennessee. All right, take a solo. There you go. Chorus.
So music has been such a part of our lives and mine also. I listen to music every single day. My job takes me on the road, so I spend a lot of time in the vehicle, and I listen to a lot of satellite radio, and I listen to everything. I listen to country, some of the real old country on Willie's Roadhouse, 70s and 80s rock, 70s and 90s country, and a little bit of other stuff I like to listen to too. So just with the guitar, I mean, I don't play near enough. I'm very rusty every time we do get together, but it's just so much fun. And I like sitting beside Daryl. Daryl plays that rhythm guitar when we're singing along, and I can watch his hands, and used to be able to know every single key chord that he was going to just by the movement of his hands, and that would help me out quite a bit. I like, everybody talks about running the bass, and it's something I've always enjoyed doing. There's some of the songs that I 5'2". I don't know if you can pick that up in this little run here, but that's the song 5'2". So.
Yeah, just with the music, it's always seems to help you out if you're in a bad mood. Although I know it doesn't happen to me often that I'm in a bad mood, but sometimes a little stressed or frustrated with work, and keep my guitar in the office. I turn around, pick that up, and start strumming, and the music always finds your mood. If you're in a bad mood, you usually start off in some A minor chords or something like that, and when you're in a good mood, you find something that suits that. So it's kind of nice. Music always finds you and fixes you. I'm going to say it's probably one of the best medicines in the world.
But be true to yourself, be true to your conscience. Learn the ones that you want to learn. Everybody has a style, and they get that style from combining a lot of other artists together. You know, one guy will do it one way, another guy will do it another way. Well,
the ways
you know,
going,
just
yeah.
and play it to the best of your ability. That's the whole key, is find something that you like and play it to the best of your ability. Okay, so the next one I'm going to play is one that's called I'll See You in My Dreams. And it goes something like this. This was a song that I think it was Chad Atkins and Mark Knopfler did together. I'll See You in My Dreams. Sound right.
No?
Sounds all right to me.
It's got there's a beat to it.
I thought it has to be higher or something.
What's the name of that?